Check 1, check 2. Test 1, test 2. Steelos Depot live stream. Wait for some people to get into the chat. And then we'll go through some Steelers film from Week 17 and answer any questions you guys might have. Alright, see some people in the chat. Appreciate you guys joining. Give it a couple minutes, some more people I'm sure will show up. Have the Ravens game from Week 17, the finale, the coach's tape up right now. As much as I'm sure most people don't want to watch this game, I'll just have in the background. We can jump to other games if you guys would like. Hey, Allie Howard. Appreciate you just stopping by. I know you've been in the chat a couple times before. Appreciate everybody stopping by. Apologize, didn't have our Monday stream yesterday. Just got busy, forgot to make mention of it, so I did want to have a short stream today. It's only going to be about a half hour. I do have some work to do, but I did want to have a stream this week. If you guys have any questions, let me know in the chat below. We'll pull out film from other games, any game from the entire season, if you guys want to look at a specific play or player. Hey, Grant. Hey, Ollie. Appreciate you guys stopping by. Figured I would do this chat before World War III begins. So I wanted to get a chat in here really quickly. Joel, appreciate you stopping by again. Nick, yeah, you're right. Greg Roman. I mean, the whole Ravens coaching staff are top notch, and that's why guys like Roman and Wink Martindale were getting looks for head coaching positions. Harbaugh, I think, is probably going to end up winning Coach of the Year, either him or Kyle Shanahan. But, you know, it is funny in Pittsburgh. You look at their, you know, coordinators they've had over the years, and not a lot of interest for promotions there. Certainly no one going to be asking Randy Fichtner or Keith Butler to interview for a head coaching job. But yeah, Harbaugh, ability to be more aggressive, to rely more on analytics and really be the most aggressive fourth down team in football, or at least right up there. The testament to them. Wink Martindale, for my money, is one of the best defensive coordinators in football. The Ravens game is a great example of their ability to create pressure, though I think the Steelers were just simply overwhelmed at that point and didn't really have any sort of answers. But I'll kind of roll through some film there. When you do special teams breakdowns, I'd like to know how many times Holton forced fair catches. Quite a bit. I don't have a number, and that would actually be an interesting off-season study. I can pull up kind of the punt place, though, and we'll see. Let me put in Sam Cook's name. I don't know how often actually Baltimore punted this game. But, yeah, Holton was the speed. It's funny. I know that people don't really watch special teams, but if you just watch him compared to Justin Lane, who actually performed, I think, pretty well as a gunner this year. Why am I putting in Cook? I need to put in Barry's name. Just how quickly Holton got downfield compared to whoever was opposite. You know, Justin Lane to close out the year. It was pretty insane. So let me try to pull up a couple of examples of it. I mean, if I went through it, I could find some. They're hard to search for, obviously, on fair catches. And you see him getting double teamed up here. So I'll kind of go through some of these. I'm not sure how many in the Baltimore game there were in particular. But I'll roll through the tape here and try to find some examples. But he was a really good special team. A terrible receiver. Don't throw to him. It didn't work. But quality special teams guy, again, getting double teamed up here, getting all the attention. So I'll let that run through. Grant, yeah, I've not heard back from Alexandria, so not too well. What are some ways you can scheme blocking up a kick return better? At this point, I really kind of throw my hands up. You know, I know I am Danny Smith, defender-in-chief over here, but it's been 3 years running, and they've been a bottom 5, really bottom 3 or 4 kick return team. They were 29th in 2017, and that was with a kick return touchdown. It's kind of hard to be 29th and have a 96-yard touchdown that Juju had in the finale that year, and then 31st each of the last 2 years. And so they have so many different pieces and guys obviously rotating back there that I don't even know at this point. I mean, my expertise isn't, elite when it comes to the actual schemes of it. I love special teams. I love breaking that side of the ball down, but I'm kind of flummoxed by how bad that unit's been for so long. I mean, they're the only team to be bottom 5 in at least 2 of the last 3 years, and they're bottom 5 in all 3 years. So really, really disappointing. I think this is a good example for Holton. I believe he's down here at the bottom. And Lane actually gets a good release on this too. But Holton, down there to throw that ball back in the field of play, and then Lane downs it. So yeah, Holton was a really big asset as a gunner. And I'll probably do some sort of video or tweet or some sort of cut up of that, because you're right, that's a really good point, and I appreciate you asking about Holton, because he was really valuable there. And I know we kind of made fun of him for receiver stuff, but special teams he was particularly strong. And so I think that's all the cut-ups of the punts. So I'll just kind of pick a random spot here, and we'll do some more tape. Do I see Randy getting re-signed next season? According to Jeremy Fowler, he has his contract runs through 2020. So I guess you're asking if he's going to get re-signed after 2020. I mean, we'll see. There's a whole year to go. We'll see how Ben does. Obviously, the offense will perform much better with Ben back, and that makes your coach look good. I imagine that Fichtner's here as long as Ben is here at minimum. So if Ben's going to play after 2020, then I expect Fichtner to come back. If Ben retires, then I think you really start taking a hard look at your whole coaching staff and redesigning this offense essentially post Ben. So don't know yet, but I think he's there as long as Ben's there. Joel asking about tight ends in the draft. We have an article going up either tomorrow or the next day on one of the top tight ends. I forget his name off the top of my head. My draft stuff's still super rusty. I'm just getting into tape. I'm going down to the Senior Bowl in a couple weeks, so I'll be down there and watching guys there and having a lot of prep work prior to that. But we will have some draft reports coming up on Steelers Depot, focusing on tight ends. And you guys can hear me, right? I think my volume was a little low. I just turned myself up. So let me know if audio-wise everything sounds and looks good and all that stuff. Madden Archive, appreciate you stopping by. Sort of random, but who's your favorite player on the team? They're all my favorite. They're like children. I know that sounds weird to say, but I want them all to succeed. Really, in terms of favorites, though, you gotta love Rosie Nix. You gotta love this story. Was famously cut on Hard Knocks, the first player cut. The cameras captured that when he was with Atlanta and was a substitute teacher for a brief time. Obviously played D-tackle, undersized at Kent State, had a really good career in the MAC, and then becomes a linebacker, moves to fullback in Pittsburgh. No one thought he had a chance. I didn't think he had a chance. I laughed at somebody. I think it was Chris Adamski of the Trib who was like, Nix looks really good, and I kind of laughed and said, he looks all right, but he's not going to make it. They're not going to keep two fullbacks because they had Will Johnson on their roster at the time, but he has that block against Carolina. His first year in Pittsburgh, makes the team, and just kind of a skull crusher, just a real throwback, no nonsense dude. So love Rosie Nix. Michael T-Well, a few mock drafts I can find on the Steelers having them taking defense in the second and third round. I think we need to draft offense this draft. What do you think? I think Bud gets tagged. I agree. I think he gets tagged. Worst case scenario, they obviously want to work a long-term deal, but the tag will be a last resort. He's not playing for anybody else other than Pittsburgh in 2020. It's just going to depend. It's hard to project this far out what position they're going to take at 49. It's hard to do that in the first round had they had the 18th pick. So if it's offensive, I think it's going to be offensive line. I do tend to agree that defense is more likely, I shouldn't say that. It's really up in the air. It could be a defensive tackle. It could be an interior offensive lineman. It could be a tight end. It could be a safety. It's hard to really try to put that in a box right now, this far out. So it's just going to depend on what happens with free agency. Again, I'm working under the assumption Dupree stays in some capacity. Tag worst case scenario, Hargrave is gone. That's going to open up D tackle. We'll see what happens with Vance. We'll know a decision on Vance's future prior to the draft. They're not going to be big players in free agency, but we'll see if they make any sort of moves that may help shore up a position to some degree. But it's just really hard to project that right now. Zachary Eckhart, O-line and draft, sure. I think you're going to see one relatively early, kind of the way that you saw Chuck Wilmore for, 2 years ago in the third round, and that kind of surprised. And so don't be surprised if you see an interior lineman, or maybe even a tackle, probably more likely an interior lineman. Maybe it could be with 49 overall. It wouldn't shock me as we see it here today, especially if Foster's gone, which we don't know, but it's certainly possible. But I think sometime, within their first three selections, you're going to see an offensive lineman likely. An interior offensive lineman drafted by Pittsburgh. They value offensive line depth more than probably any other team in football. It's what's helped transform this team and this offense. They've been gutted by the losses of guys like Fred Johnson, and should they release Ramon Foster, BJ Finney walks, Matt Fowler might kick the left guard, probably been the most likely scenario if that's what plays out, just so they want to replenish O-line depth. Cecil Clark, should Connor be re-signed? Can't do it right now. Again, he's under contract through 2020. He's not a free agent. But you can't really commit any long-term money to a guy who's been injured as much as he's been. And I feel bad for him. I'm not trying to make light of it or joke about it. I'm sure no one is more frustrated by his injury history than James Conner. But at that position where backs don't tend to get healthier over time, I can't see James Conner being re-signed. Certainly not given an extension this offseason with everybody else they have to worry about. Grant, thank you for letting me know the volume. Joel says, I would be disappointed if they drafted just one with that second-round pick. Yeah, tight end I think you're going to see in some capacity regardless of what happens to Vance. we'll see what happens from Nick Vannett. Vannett's going to be a free agent, but I'm not giving Vannett anything more than the minimum. He just didn't play well this year. M. Kaiser, appreciate you stopping by. We all know Edmunds is the weak link on defense. What skills he lacking most? Ball awareness, the angles he takes. He's a decent tackler. Yeah, it's just kind of an instinctual thing. Let me actually, real quick here, cause I'm just kind of scrolling, letting the tape run through. Let me kind of clean up this look here slightly. Yeah, it's just one of those, instinctual things where you kind of either you have it or you don't. I mean, this is a guy with one career interception, and he's got one career turnover force. When you combine his fumble recoveries, forced fumbles, and interceptions, I believe it's just the one against Tampa last year, and that was just an overthrow that he was in right spot, right time. Now, I do want to at least recognize that this is a 22-year-old, only a second-year guy, and I think if Bud Dupree has shown anything, it's proven. He's shown, I don't want to say proven, but shown that guys can break out at later stages in their career. So I don't want to say what Edmunds clearly is or isn't yet. And he's not a liability. He's improved his tackling. He's a more physical player. He's played a high volume of snaps. His conditioning is excellent. There are positives with Terrell Edmunds, but certainly in a year where your defense forced 38 turnovers and Edmunds, your strong safety, you played, I think, more snaps than anybody on this defense. I'll have to check that, but certainly right up there, had 0 of them. That's some cause for alarm and concern. And usually you don't see these guys become great playmakers suddenly later on in their career. You kind of either know it, like you have with Minka right now. Joe Hayden had 6 picks his rookie year, or you find that out pretty quickly if they have it or not. So that's just kind of the concern. But I don't want to write the book on Edmunds, and he's not Artie Burns. He's much better than that. He's basically where Bud was at prior to this year. Shane K, should the Steelers draft a quarterback and let him sit behind Ben? I wouldn't do it right now. I'm focusing on building around Ben as opposed to trying to find the next Ben right now. They've gone down that path before. This window to win a Super Bowl is 2020 and 2021, and that's about it in a probably even best case scenario. That's what you have to plan for at least. So I'm looking to bring in talent to help this roster win now as opposed to win later, especially with draft capital being slim and free agency money being almost non-existent this year. You can't have the class of free agents you had this past year of Nelson, Barron, and Moncrief. You just don't have the finances for that. So you really got to make these draft picks count and work and help you now. And the quarterback obviously does not fit that bill. Nick says, look at Benny Gunn, that punt, unselfish as they come. That Benny Snell, is that him working on that unit? I know it's a play from 5 minutes ago. But yeah, Snell was a kind of hand-the-pile type guy, really embraced special teams, his conditioning, his readiness, his downhill style, physical nature. A really strong year overall for Benny Snell. Impressed with him. Demon Muffins, do you think Edmunds' leap from year 1 to year 2 was typical of players in this position, or was it a smaller jump relative to the average? That's tough to quantify, obviously. What I was most disappointed about with Edmunds was that he had a really impressive training camp. I think I gave him a camp grade of like A- or A or something in the A range, because his camp was excellent, and I thought we were looking at a big jump in year 2 as a guy that was more comfortable, got thrown into the fire as a rookie, and really could take off in year 2, and that didn't happen. So I would say it was probably a smaller jump. You look at James Washington year 1 to year 2, pretty sizable jump, a bigger jump than I would say Terrell Edmunds took. But I also want to give credit to Edmunds' his rookie year because, I think he was probably better than the typical rookie in that situation, even though he was far from great to play more snaps than I believe any rookie did last season, and unexpectedly. He wasn't supposed to be that kind of guy right away. That when Morgan Burnett got hurt, missed the first couple games of the year, and then they didn't want to make the switch and start rotating guys, and they wanted to kind of keep roles the same. So Burnett became the dime guy, which is what Edmunds' role was supposed to be. When they drafted him, was supposed to be the dime guy in year 1. So, his baseline was probably a little bit higher than rookies, and that kind of created a bit smaller jump year 2. But I'm also disappointed because I saw that he had a great camp, and it didn't quite translate into the regular season. Dennis, appreciate you stopping by. I know you've been around for every chat, so hope you're doing well. Okay, I even see right after you say it's hard to quantify. I swear I wouldn't even read that whenever I answered the question initially, Demon Muffins. But yeah, hard to quantify. I would say it was smaller than typical players in year 2, but also a little bit because his baseline as a rookie was probably higher than a lot of rookies in that spot. David O, I think is that the David O? Appreciate you stopping by. Solarverse, thanks for being here. I'm only going to stream for probably till about 9 o'clock. I just have some stuff to do. I wanted to do a stream, like I said, because I still want to try to do Monday at 7:30 every Monday. I just missed it yesterday, caught up with stuff, so that's still the goal. I won't be doing one in a couple Mondays, I don't think, no, whatever, I think it's going to be the January 20th. I won't have a stream because I'll be in Mobile, Alabama for the Senior Bowl, which I'm really looking forward to. So there won't be a stream that week at all. So just a heads up there. But next Monday, 7:30 Eastern time, that's my plan, is to do a stream. Then, Dennis, I'm doing well. Oh, you're talking to Allie, but I'm still doing well nonetheless. North Talk. Any interesting tight ends within our second round pick? I'm sure there will be. I'll go down to Mobile and check out some tight ends down there in a couple weeks, but I don't have a lot of names for you. We do have a scouting report on one of the tight ends, I think from Purdue, going up tomorrow or the next day, sometime soon. So check out Steelers Depot because we got a ton of draft profiles coming up. I'll have one in the next day or two on Neville Gallimore from Oklahoma, who I think could really be a strong Hargrave replacement if he makes it to the Steelers' 49th pick in the 2020 draft. So be on the lookout for that one. Might be interesting to see how Edmunds gels with Minka with a full camp together. Yeah, I mean, that's going to help for sure. But I think they kind of know each other are after you go through an entire season, or most of an entire season, I should say, everything but, 2 games, 14 games together. They kind of are who they are. Do you see the Steelers make any moves to increase from only 5 draft picks? Yeah, I think trading back in that second round spot is a possibility. The Steelers like to have multiple picks on day 2, and they should. I mean, they'll have the third round comp pick, so that does give them 2, although that third round comp pick is going to be right around pick 100, so it's almost an early 4th rounder. So I think it's a potential for them to trade back, maybe 10 spots, pick up an extra, 3rd to 4th round pick, but it's just going to depend. I mean, it's always on the table. Kevin Clover would say moving up, moving down is always on the table. You just never know till you know, and you get in the draft and you see what offers are out here. Real quick, I do want to talk about this play. I just want to bring your attention to the block here by B.J. Finney, and then Snell's contact balance too. Just hoping to clear the way up the A gap here. So Finney on the nose tackle here. Just check this one out. Just being able to drive him out, create that hole for Snell. Good contact balance here. Run through the tackle and nearly gets it into the end zone. Scores with a 4-yard score here in the next play. So just wanted to point that out. All right. Yeah. No, I think that the way you've seen people talk about Edmunds is similar to Dupree, and I defended Dupree, and I'll defend Edmunds to some extent. But yeah, I think that's at least perspective. I mean, Edmunds may not be anything more than he is now. There's been a lot of guys who were at Dupree's level that never took that next step. So, Jarvis Jones never took that next step. But I think that is good perspective. Fishtails. Any veteran wide receiver worth signing in free agency? I haven't looked at a list of names yet. There may be some low-level guy. I'm not quite sure yet. Don't expect any sort of high-impact move there, though. Given Ben's contract, if Ben struggles this year and ends up and only being a $12 billion cap in 2021, do you see the Steelers cutting Ben if he struggles? I really doubt it. I don't see them ever cutting Ben. He's going to almost certainly retire and go out on his own terms. But we'll see. I mean, I guess I can't answer that with 100% confidence, because what if he does struggle? I mean, the conversation could certainly shift, and people will say that. Grant, I know Dave threw out a scenario where Jesse James is cut by Detroit, so he said sign JJ and Vanette for the vet minimum, draft a tight end, and cut ties with Vance. What do you think of that? Yeah, I'd be cool with that on paper. I think I said on the podcast on Monday that I was looking at some Detroit beat writers' comments, and they really can't see Jesse being cut this offseason because they would actually it would cost more to cut him than it would to keep him. So I think maybe after next year that's possible. So the odds of James actually being cut by the Lions seems slim right now. But if he does, I, of course, would be interested. Face Windu, I appreciate you stopping by. No, you're not too late. We got another 10 minutes here. If you have a question, which you may have already asked. You asked about the Senior Bowl shortlist. I'll have a list. I've literally only watched a couple guys so far. I did reports on wide receiver Joe Reed from Virginia, who I don't believe is going to be at the Senior Bowl. He's at the Shrine Game, but there are always injuries and call-ups, and he may be one of those guys. But I will have a list before I leave of guys I'm really interested in looking at. But as I mentioned a moment ago, Neville Gallimore is a guy, the D-tackle from Oklahoma, who I think is quite interesting. Caden Atwood, why did Vance have such a tough year? I'd love to know. Was he playing through a serious injury? Was he just the culmination of all the injuries he's dealt with over his career and everything kind of catching up to him? I'm not quite sure. I will have some clips though of him as a blocker. I don't have anything I can show quite right now. Nothing that's immediately coming to mind, particularly from this game. But he just didn't look healthy. Did not look like Vance of last year. Mutated Genome, thanks for stopping by. If they lose Hargrave to the free agency, will Isaiah Bugs take his snaps, or will they have to look to bring someone else in? I think, well, first of all, Bugs is not a nose tackle. He's not going to be a one-to-one replacement for Hargrave, but I think what he can offer you, that Hargrave gave you, is those nickel rotational snaps. So let's say you lose Hargrave. This is the way I would go about it with my rough draft of an idea. You probably draft some kind of more classic throwback nose tackle plugger in the middle, and that's just your base guy, where you're going to run base about 31% of the time in 2020. That's about the average of the last 5 years. They're in base 31% of the time. Then you have Bugs in the mix in nickel for sub package, where that nose tackle you draft probably won't be used there really at all, which is fine. He's a rookie. Let's limit his snap count, kind of let him have a niche kind of role. And then you'll have Hayward, Tuitt, Alulu, and Bugs in that sub package nickel role where they can get after the quarterback. That's probably the best way to do it. It's very hard to find a guy Hargrave's skill set. Very unique build, very unique player. Certainly going to make some other team a whole lot better and make himself a ton of money in the process. So rather than trying to find that all in one, although it's possible, Gallimore I think is a guy that has a very similar skill set to Hargrave. I mean, I think you do want to try to find someone who can bring some sort of pass rush juice, but I think where Bugs can help replace is in that nickel sub role as opposed to Hargrave's true nose tackle spot. I definitely don't see why people say we'll take a receiver in the first round. We have 3 ready to go starters. Maybe later rounds to develop, but I would rather look at tight end or lineman depth. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't think receiver is going to be a huge need. I mean, like you said, you have your 3 with Juju, Deontay, James Washington. You bring back a guy like Deon Cain that impressed in small bursts this year. Johnny Holton will be in camp as a specialist. Is that a sign of a train coming? We'll find out. But yeah, I don't think receiver is going to be at the top of the list. It's going to be addressed in some capacity. They'll bring somebody in, so I was always good to have that competition, but I tend to agree if they do draft a receiver, it's more likely to be a mid to late day 3 pick as opposed to a second or third round pick. So I'm with you there, Ollie. Michael C., do you think Ben will save the problems of the offense? He's certainly a good band-aid. I mean, he can't save everything, but you certainly saw the value of him by not having him out there in 2020. So certainly red zone efficiency. I have an article going up tomorrow on Steelers Depot that talks about the red zone inefficiency and just how bad it was, to put things in perspective. Turnovers, I mean, the whole core of the offense, the whole identity of the offense was shaped around Ben. You lose him, and you're scrambling the rest of the way. So save, I'm not quite sure, but certainly will transform this offense. Yeah, Demon, I was really high on Edmunds, and that was one that I still think he had a good camp. I don't want to say I was wrong about him not having a good camp, but I was wrong in my hope and optimism that he would take a big jump in year 2. He did improve. I don't want to give the impression he didn't improve at all, but he didn't take the jump that I anticipated. And again, just the lack of production, lack of splashes at, I would say, historically bad levels. I have an article idea. I haven't typed it up yet, but I'm going to have an article sometime in the near future that puts in perspective how bad the lack of playmaking's been for a guy that's played that much football already, and that'll kind of highlight that. So be on the lookout for that here in a couple weeks. By the way, just looking at punts here, you got Tyler Medikevich, a free agent after the season. I know we talk about Bud and Hargrave and all the other free agents, but Medikevich is set to hit free agency. Hopefully they can re-sign him, but if they can't, he's a four-phase type of guy. He plays everywhere on special teams aside from obviously field goal block and field goal kick, but really important player. No player has had more tackles since entering the league in 2016 than Tyler Medikevich, so really impressive, and he tied for the NFL lead in special teams tackles in 2019. I believe he had 16 that tied. So I think Derek Watt and somebody else whose name I can't quite remember. Yeah, knock on wood, Dennis. I gotta roll through these quicker because I know I take forever and I ramble with my answers. What do you see the Steelers doing with Zach Banner? Just the same. I mean, if Fowler gets kicked to left guard, then there probably is going to be a quasi-competition between Okorafor and Banner at right tackle. I still think I would give the edge to Okorafor, but hey, Banner beat out Okorafor on game days most times this year. But I think Okorafor, they drafted him in the third round. They envisioned him as a future starting tackle. He was a young guy that did not have a ton of experience coming out of college. One of the Compass Michigans, I always forget. What did he come out of? Western Michigan, Eastern Michigan, one of the two. Now they want to put him, to use. So my guess is Banner would kind of stay in that 6 offensive lineman backup tackle role. Did Ben have a good training camp this year? Yeah, it was fine. It was Ben. I mean, I don't pay exactly special attention to Ben in camp because it's camp and it's Ben and he's always fine. He also didn't practice a ton in camp this year. I mean, the normal schedule is a full day, a half day, and then an off day. But he did have more off days this year, which I wonder, in hindsight, if that was an indication about him, his elbow hurting him way back in camp. I have no idea. That's total speculation on my part. Ultimately, what does it matter? But he didn't. I mean, I don't know exactly how many passes he threw in camp. We do track that number. I don't have it off the top of my head, but he didn't really do a whole lot in camp, but he was fine. Thoughts on Bud Dupree's Pro Bowl snub? I think he obviously deserved it. I think a strong case to make with Dupree over Matt Judon, but sometimes it's just how it goes. I'm not going to lose too much sleep about it because it's not affecting my wallet. I don't know if he had a Pro Bowl bonus incentive in his deal, but I mean, what can you do? How do you say that? Ill guilt, but without the L. What do you think about drafting running back like the Ohio State, J.K. Dobbins, or Wisconsin running back Jonathan Taylor? Since Dobbins will probably be gone, especially since Connor seems to have durability issues, I just wouldn't take a running back high. I think there's so many other needs for this team. All the running backs will be back next year. I thought Benny Snell had a really strong rookie year. Obviously, Connor's health, it's impossible to trust at this point, but he's still such a talented back. And just, the nature of the position. You don't have to have a running back high. You can kind of plug and play, more so than any other position in football. So I just wouldn't invest in it that high, especially with limited draft capital. This play here, see Carr coming off the edge, is completely unblocked. Again, just struggle with overload blitzes the entire season, sliding the wrong way. I think they tried more full slides instead of half slides against Baltimore, but nothing worked. Against empty, you gotta know there's got to be hots built in. I'm not sure if there were on this play. Does not feel like it. I mean, I'm looking at this one. No one's really got their head around. Vance does get his head around, but by the time that happens, there's already pressure. There's got to be some immediate hots here. It was just a mess trying to pick up blitzes end of the year. The last 3 weeks were a mess and super disappointing. Nice job by Juju at the bottom here to beat Humphrey. I think actually Humphrey got flagged on this play for a hold, which was kind of ticky-tack. Yeah, you see the flag come in. But anyway, just random thought there. Want to talk to the tape a little bit. Michael, yeah, Snell's a beast. If he can lose a little weight, yeah, he'll probably lose some weight, just in the way the Connor and Samuels and Bell have all done. I think losing a little bit of weight is going to be good for him. Joel, would an extension for Hayward be a viable way of freeing up some cap space? Yeah, Dave Bryan says about $3 million roughly it's going to free up, so it's not going to free up a lot, but it will free up a little, and so that'll help. Alex, do you think the one Terrell Edmunds vote for All-Pro was a mistake, thinking he was his brother? I have no idea. I did see there's one guy on Twitter that sincerely, legitimately, and not on accident, put Edmunds as a second-team All-Pro. I don't know if that guy has a vote or what, but I don't know. Maybe they were talking to the same people. I don't know. Obviously, in my book, it's not an All-Pro year from Terrell Edmunds, but that did surprise me and make me laugh a little bit. Yeah, I know Vance didn't get targeted a lot, but if you look at his blocking, look at the drops, the route running, the post-catch stuff. I mean, even understanding the quarterback situation in regards to Vance, I can't use that as the only excuse. Deontay Johnson had a pretty good year despite the quarterback situation. James Washington improved despite the quarterback situation. You can separate the two and say, yes, quarterback play was an issue, but also Vance just did not play well, and he didn't. Will Barry be the punter in 2020? I mean, he's obviously going to be the favorite here, but we'll see. I mean, he was having a really strong year until the final month, which I know was graded a quarter of the season, but my guess is he will be. We'll see what happens, though. Do want to show this play. Talk about Vance McDonald. I highlighted this on Twitter. I know this is a check release. I know he's looking for a blitz here, but just look how long it takes him to release into his route. Like, these are things that are independent of quarterback play. And honestly, I think that's one reason why Hodges got sacked here. Because yes, there's a ton of issues on this play. They don't pick up this blitz. I get that. Not blaming the fact that Carr got free on McDonald here. But why can't you get your head around releasing the route as soon as you see the blitz doesn't come? He's looking inside. He's looking outside. He's looking outside. Then he looks inside. Both guys drop. Go into your route now. Like, you got to get your head around. Just, be that safety valve here for Hodges. And still hasn't. Finally does. By the time he gets his head around, Hodges is being taken to the ground by Carr here. Like, that's a bad play by McDonald and kind of sums up his season. So, yes, you can talk about quarterback play, but there were also just some weird issues with Vance this year, and this, to me, kind of stuck out probably more than any other particular play in 2019. Verdon Barzy, hey, man. If you have a question, if you've asked it below, I'll do 5 more minutes because I take forever with my answers here. Oh, Oh, no, Michael saying Dobbins is the higher stake. Okay, I was reading that wrong. Yeah. J.K. Dobbins from Ohio State, Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin. David, I'm glad you like the train whistle. Don't take a train, actually. It's showing up right now, but I probably jinxed it. Yeah, Caden. Oh, well, you're asking about why did Juju struggle? I mean, Juju just wasn't healthy, so I mean that really affected him basically the entire second half of the season. Is there a worry with Juju? I mean, you want to see him bounce back. There is obviously more worry now than any point in his short NFL career, but I still have confidence in Juju. I am not particularly worried about him. Nope, no train showed up, so that was good. Now, you know what? You guys don't want to hear the train. Do you really like the train? I tried really hard on podcasts and videos. I pause some of these videos that I do, the edited ones, so if the trains go by. They always seem to go by when I do these videos. They're just loud. You don't want to hear train whistle, especially for headphones. Usually, I always worry about if someone has their headphones on and all of a sudden the big train whistle shows up in the background unexpected. I know I would not like that. Did signing a skipper to a 2-year deal mean anything big picture? I mean, I guess it gives him, in theory, a little more security. I don't think he actually got a signing bonus with that article on Steelers Depot that explains his contract. You can check the article out there. I don't know exactly how much it means. I would say very little, considering there is no signing bonus to him, but, I guess it can't hurt. They like him, and I know Steelers Nation loves him. Yeah, Dennis, we'll see. I mean, obviously, Medikevich may not even hit the market. If I was the Steelers, I would be trying to re-sign him before free agency, but I think he's regarded as one of the top special teamers in football. And while fans may not value that highly, the NFL certainly does. So if he's not in Pittsburgh, he will certainly land on his feet somewhere else. I hope it's in Pittsburgh, though. Yeah, I mean, Gilbert the third. Well, when you talk about spots in special teams, it's not just like there's one spot. So Gilbert the third and Medikevich were already on the unit together this year. Actually, UG3 had more special team snaps than any other player before he got hurt with that back injury. So it's not about just one guy. I would kind of look at Spillane having that role, quote unquote, more. But it just depends on where he's going to line up. Like are you going to be L4 on kicks and the left guard on punts and whatever. I mean, it's a little more than just saying this guy replaces that guy in special teams. Plus, you got to have a whole unit to fill too. Hey, Nikki, appreciate you showing up. I remember you on Twitter. What do you honestly think happens to Vance Cutter Keep? That is probably the most difficult question. I just don't know. It really just depends on what the issue is. Was he dealing with a nagging injury last year where he just gutted out the year and that's why he played so poorly? Or is his body just simply breaking down from all the years of playing football? If it's the former and which is a nagging injury, then you sit there and say, okay, if he's healthy in 2020, he'll be much closer resembling the Vance of 2018, then you keep him. If it's a thing where you feel like his body is breaking down, then you probably need to have a serious conversation about moving on. Unfortunately, obviously, I can't answer that question to which it is. So that's the question I'd be asking myself if I'm the Steelers. Why was Vance so poor this year? Was it a nagging injury that he suffered early in the year and he just kind of played through because they just didn't have tight ends and he needed to be out there? Or is his body just breaking down? And the other element, even if it's the former and he was dealing with something, his best seasons have come, including 2018, his best years have come while playing about 500 snaps. Like, he's a guy that you just can't play 800 snaps a season. He actually played 200 snaps more this year than last year, despite playing in one fewer game. So he's a guy that you really need to be smart with the snap count. And I say that to say that even if you want to keep Vance, and even if Vance returns to kind of old Vance self, 2018 Vance self, you got to have a tight end number 2. You got to have another tight end in there because Vance is going to play about half the snaps in 2020 in a best case scenario. If you want to if you want to maximize, I should say, his ability and not kind of wear him down. So you got to have another tight end really regardless, even if Vance is kept, even if he comes back and plays like the Vance of old. Yeah, I mean, Edmunds is a box safety, but who says this here? Jimmy, I mean, there are a lot of box safeties who get more than one interception in 2 years of starting. I don't think that can be the only excuse here. Labs agrees with me that signing Hargrave is something we need to do. I would love to have Hargrave back. I mean, I'm going to be so bummed, and I'm already feeling bummed about it, thinking about it, that whenever Hargrave is signed somewhere else. I mean, how do you make it work financially? They're keeping Dupree. I mean, Tomlin's already said it. Dupree's a priority guy for them, and you have to work under the assumption that you can't get a long-term deal done with him, and that you're going to tag him for $16 million. That eats up basically all your cap, even after you cut some names like Chicolo and potentially Mark Barrett, and even if you don't pick up the option on McDonald and If you cut Ramon Foster, I mean, he still only clears up a tiny bit of extra space after attacking Dupree. So just what is the financial path to keeping Hargrave? I don't see it. I just don't. But I love Hargrave. Samantha Eichhorn. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Any chance Watt wins Defensive Player of the Year? Yeah, I think there's a great chance for that. I think it's going to come down to T.J. Watt versus Stephon Gilmore and maybe Chandler Jones. But I think Watt has the name, and then Gilmore kind of has the played on maybe the best defense in football, and obviously is in the play or was in the playoffs. And Patriots eliminated. Hooray for that. So my guess is it comes down to Watt versus Gilmore, but I think Watt's got a really good chance. Will he win it? Who knows? But I think he's got good odds. Will there be competition for starting running back job next year? It'll be Connor. It's still going to be Connor. I mean, you just have to kind of plan for Connor getting hurt, but Connor's the guy. I also hope we get to a Super Bowl for World War III starts, but we'll see. Super Bowls. Will we get to a Super Bowl this year before World War III starts? We'll see. Do you think Foster's time is up in Pittsburgh? Yeah, I think it's certainly possible. I'm not going to say 100% yes, but if they released him, it would not shock me in the least. And then, again, most likely, you let Finney go, you release Foster, Fowler kicks to left guard, you let Okorafor and Banner duke it out at right tackle. I think Okorafor would probably ultimately win. Banner's your 6th offensive lineman, and then you draft some interior linemen probably within the first 3 picks in the 2020 draft. That is my rough outline for addressing the position. Hey, Zach Biscotta. Appreciate you stopping by. I'm going to go about, I know I keep moving the time back, but I'm very long-winded, as you can tell. I'll go a couple more minutes, and then we'll end the stream. Night Train Lane. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, if it was just a rumor or a myth that kicked up, but I believe the reason why he's called Night Train Lane was because he hated flying, and he always took the train and had to go late at night to travel from city to city, and so I think that's why it's Dick Night Train Lane, because he hated flying and always took the train. Everyone likes the train. All right, if you guys like the train, then that makes me feel better about myself, so I'm not going to be as self-conscious about it when it rolls through, but it always seems to come the second I start talking with an answer, and just the train horn sounds really loud. It's not the fact that the train rolls by, like that actually can be kind of nice with the sound, but it's the horn, because I live right next to a crossing, and it has to blare the horn for the crossing, and so that's where just that second of it being super loud is not fun. But I'm glad you guys like it. I think they signed Skipper to possibly take Chicolo's spot. Chicolo will probably be a cap casualty. Certainly, I think like 99% chance Chicolo's cut. And yeah, Skipper can definitely be in that role, and so will old Daney and whoever else maybe make some noise in camp. Can Alulu move to nose? Michael, no. Alulu cannot play a straight nose tackle role. Any thoughts on improving special teams? I think special teams were mostly solid, besides Barry's last month of the year, which was just kind of some weird, kooky stuff. And then the kick return game, I don't know. I don't know how to fix the kick return game. It's been 3 years of it being bad. I just don't know. My biggest criticism of Danny Smith, and I won't defend the Steelers kick return game because it's just been terrible for too long now, has not gotten better, actually gotten worse. Average 18.1 yards per kick this year, which is, I think, 3rd worst since the merger in Steelers history. So, pretty bad. Colin, thank you very much. I appreciate you stopping by and saying those kind words. Thank you, Michael. Yeah, if you went to the like button, that's cool. If you want to subscribe, that's fine, but you don't have to. I'm not one of those guys that talks about liking and subscribing like crazy. I just appreciate you guys being here. No, M. Kaiser, I will be flying down to Mobile. I'm not driving. That would be kind of crazy. Alright guys, I think that's about all the questions. Anything, I'll be around for 2 more minutes. Any other last questions, you guys can throw them in there. Jimmy, I appreciate the giving the shout for the like button. But again, we'll try to do a stream every Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And we'll still have some videos coming out. I'm still going to do not as many as I would during the season, obviously, just because there's less to talk about. But I will have some videos, maybe some tape breakdowns, some season review kind of things. If you guys want to see anything in particular, let me know what you want to see in terms of some off-season videos, players to spotlight, schemes to spotlight, whatever you guys want to do. You can let me know in the comments of any video. You can let me know in the chat here, or whatever you guys want to do in the comments after this video gets archived and put up is certainly cool as well. So, thank you guys very much. Do I still have to make Lumina? No, I sold her. Very disappointed. It kind of hurt to sell her, but I sold her in October, I believe, I now have a Scion TC. So moving up in the world, this car's got a horn that works, and air conditioning, and windshield wiper fluid, and all the essentials of a modern car. So that's pretty nice. Dennis, thank you so much. Face Windu, thank you very much. David O, adios to you. Matt and Archive, thank you so much. Appreciate everybody stopping by here. And okay, we'll wrap this video up. Again, Monday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. That is my hope to stream again. I'll have a post shortly before the stream, about a half hour, to let you guys know for sure if it's happening or not. So thank you guys so much, and we'll talk to you soon.